Hello, 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 and welcome back to the First City Podcast. I'm your host, Aaron Whited, owner of First City Records, located in gorgeous springtime downtown Marietta, 166 Front Street. Primo location, right across from Jeremiah's Marietta Brewing Company, and directly across from my friends at Over the Moon Pizza. It's like what we call like the Holy Trinity. We have music, beer, coffee, open after hours, live music. It's like the best square you can imagine having a small business in. Lucky to have them as my neighbors and my local business friends. So welcome to episode 11. We're going to be jumping right into my interview with Mr. Jesse Forrest. Everybody knows him. Everybody loves him. Singer, songwriter, guitarist, keyboardist, producer, drummer. It from the Addams Family, the bearded one, Jesse Forrest. One of my good friends for over a decade now, and I hope you guys enjoy this interview. It's very off the cuff and leave no stones unturned. We're going to talk about his progression from his younger days into all the bands that he's been in, and we're going to do a man-to-man check-in with our mental health, and I hope you guys enjoy this all-around encompassing interview with Mr. Jesse Forrest, and we will be back later at the end of the episode to talk about the tidbits going on around town, but I want to jump right in to this interview. Everybody enjoy Mr. Jesse Forrest. Sitting here with my old-time friend, Mr. Jesse Forrest. It seems like everybody in town knows you. You kind of are a staple everywhere you go, especially Beverly, Marietta, Waterford.
Everybody in Waterford. All of them.
All of Waterford knows you, right?
Actually, like 10 years ago, that was true. There's a lot of people I don't know now. I don't spend much time there. I try to not be home as much as, you know.
So you still live out there?
Born and raised and never got out.
You spend so much time in Marietta. Why don't you just move to Marietta?
Economics, my friend. Economics.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
basically I inherited a place to live, which is very cool. And it works out great. Not having to pay rent, pretty good. So, and it's quiet. Nobody bothers me in that town. You know what I mean? Like, if I make noise, no one calls the cops. So, like, if I want to play electric guitar, like, 9 in the evening on a Friday, it's fine.
That's the one thing that I love about being a homeowner is being able to be, well, until I had kids, being able to be as loud as I want to be, as late as I want to be. Anymore, it's like 7:30 in the evening. I'm like, all right, music's off. Time for YouTube and sleep.
Yeah. Yeah.
These damn kids get me up at 5:30 in the morning. My God.
I don't have that problem.
Not yet. Who knows? One of these days, you never know.
I don't know. I don't even get me up at 5:30 in the morning when I'm supposed to.
No. Nobody should be supposed to get up that early. It should be a sin. No matter how late we let them stay up, their internal and their eternal clocks are just like 5:30. Well, the sun's almost up, so we actually had to buy this night light that stays red until we timed it at 7 to go green. It's like, if your ass is out of your bed before it turns green, there will be no Chuck E. Cheese next weekend, or Santa's not coming.
Is Chuck E. Cheese even a thing anymore?
Oh.
They got rid of the robot band, so does it matter?
We went last weekend, and we had a great time. It actually was. We don't get out of town much, and we don't vacation anymore. We haven't in a long time just because of my schedule. But there's no animatronics. There was a teenager walking around in the mouse suit, which I thought was nice. It was kind of weird. They replaced the coin machines and having to put in coins with, you get a little credit card, and then you tap the machine, and so you basically are paying for minutes.
Yeah. So
it worked out great for a family like us because, one kid wanted to play one game, one kid wanted to play another. It's like bing, bing.
Yeah. They're doing the Dave and Buster's thing they've been doing
That's
forever.
what it is?
Okay.
I've never been to one of those.
I think that's true. It's been a while. There was a place in the Easton Mall that was called something else that did that too. It was all on a card, and you just did a little tap, and you're good to go.
What was that? What was the name of the restaurant in Office Space? Not Tchotchkes, because that's what the pieces of flair. What was that?
I don't remember it, but I was just talking about that movie today, and I should.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, because my printer at work decided to do
You had to go Michael Bolton on it, huh?
Yeah, it was doing some shenanigans, and I had enough.
That's what it was called, shenanigans.
Was it shenanigans?
99% sure.
All I remember about shenanigans is Super Troopers. That's all I ever think of when I think of shenanigans. But it could be that. I don't know.
What? Oh, that might have been in the movie Waiting too.
It's hard to tell.
I don't know. You ever done The Goat? I think speaking of the word,
no,
the movie Waiting. You know what that is, right?
I'm fully aware, but I've never done it.
All right. Well, we're 4 minutes into this thing. I'm going to kind of reel it in just a little bit. Little backstory. Jesse and I met. I was having a gig at a local bar or something. This was probably when I was mid-20s, so you would have been in early 20s.
Yeah.
Very early 20s, probably just 21. You were wild.
I had to have been maybe 21.
You were a baby, but you were in a bar, so I mean, and you were drinking, so we'll call you 21, me 20. How old are you now?
35.
Okay, so I'm 5 years older than you, so I would have been mid-20s, you were early 20s. Yeah. Well, anyways, and you kind of took a liking to me, and you came to a gig or two, and then you had me play open for you for a gig or two. And then the shenanigans we did in the early days, we did drink the Boathouse out of Guinness.
It wasn't that hard to do.
It wasn't.
Nobody bought it there. They didn't keep much, but it still felt like an accomplishment.
But the story, 10 years later, man, to tell the story, you don't tell them there wasn't that much.
But hold on, there is a picture of me with a pretty good pyramid of Guinness. So
that will be posted and shared. Originally I was going to have it plastered on the TV while we were doing the podcast, but yes, Jesse, when I said what beer do you want for the podcast, and of course he requested the Guinness. So Jesse will be drinking his Guinness tonight during the show, and I'm sitting here with my Voodoo Ranger Juice Force IPA 9.5%. So if you start hearing this by the 45-minute mark,
I bought 2 of those.
That's all you
nights
need.
ago on the way home, right? I didn't look at the ABV. I just bought it. I was like, these look nice.
Yeah.
And I went home and I sat down and I was hanging out with my dog and I drank 2 of them fairly quickly, like you do sometimes.
Ooh.
I was like, well, I need to get up and do something. And I got up and I was like,
that's not right.
I've already got a buzz. I looked at the camera. I was like, oh, this is how it's gone. Yeah. No, I just remember, I think at the time that we met, I was playing Rockabilly with Cadillac Lester.
You were in Cadillac Lester. Yeah.
So I know we did a good bit of that together. You came and opened up for us a few times.
One time I think we just went and did karaoke in Waterford. One time I remember opening up for you in like a VFW. Or
Beverly Eagles. I remember
Beverly
that.
Eagles.
I remember that really distinctly for some reason. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was trying to get people from Parkersburg to carpool out there, and it's hard to get anybody to go anywhere, let alone travel.
It was. Why would you want to go to Beverly or Waterford if you don't have to? If I didn't live there, I'd probably never go there.
I don't know. But a couple other things that I was sitting there trying to remember was like, I know for a period we hung out frequently, and then we just kind of like went our separate ways. I had a kid and moved to Parkersburg, and just kind of like life settled down for me, and you were doing your thing,
which was probably all crazy at the time.
At the time, yeah, I was kind of distancing myself from that because I had to take out all the piercings. I got a corporate, job sitting in my ex's, being like administrative assistant, take out the piercings, and had kids, and took a completely, different route. And the route that you took was the route that originally I thought my life was going to be, which is rock and roll and playing music and shows. I don't want to say I outgrew it, because obviously I'm a record store owner, and I outgrew it for me personally. But obviously music is my lifeblood, and the reason I'm still here a lot of the time in my mental state, like it's the only thing that keeps my sanity. But
understood.
Let's get into some of your early days. Let's talk about when did you learn to play guitar? How did you get into music?
So I was always into music. I was always around music. My mom had a good record collection, which is the only reason I probably ever got into, buying vinyl myself. And she was into like Simon and Garfunkel and Boston and Bruce Springsteen, which I didn't like when I was young. I was like, I'm too cool for this.
Yeah.
But so I listened to her vinyl collection a lot. And that's, I love Simon and Garfunkel. I still do. She loved REO Speedwagon. I think it's more one of those things when I hear it, I have a chuckle and I enjoy it. But, it's one of those things I think is funny. They say your parents' music a lot of time will build your your taste in music. And I think that you can find some things in those tastes. My dad loved Waylon Jennings, and Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard, and I like all those. And Mom loved Springsteen, which I learned to love in my mid-20s. I heard this stuff again and went, I've been a fool all these years because I was listening to metal, or whatever. And so that was kind of my first, you hear it on the radio. When you're a little kid, it doesn't matter. You have dumb stuff you like.
Did you have MTV growing up? Because we didn't. We had VH1.
No, I didn't have either. We had like 13 channels on TV until
so you had the radio to kind of guide your musical tastes in your younger days and your parents' records.
So, and I feel that I got fortunate. I have a cousin who's 14 years older than me, and he played punk rock. And actually what's funny is he and his friends who are still, that much older than me are people that I talk to regularly. He gifted me when CDs became a thing. He had this great cassette collection, and I had one of those old school boom boxes that took like D batteries, that played cassettes. I know what you're saying, yeah. And he gives me this giant, case full of cassette tapes. And it was Ramones and Black Flag and The Clash and all these different bands. Bad Brains and like a lot of hardcore.
There's a lot of money in
Minor Threat
in that collection.
Well, not in the cassettes. I'm not so sure, but maybe I don't know.
There is, yeah.
They're still around somewhere.
Yeah, we call them tape heads, and I'm one of them. I have a nice little cassette collection here behind you.
Yeah, so I started listening to all of that, and that's kind of when I started to form my own taste in music because it was like, this is his stuff. He never pushed them. He's like, here, just have these and listen to them if you want to. I remember the first time I listened to a Ramones record, and I was like, well, my mom loved the Beach Boys. And I remember being like, this is like if the Beach Boys were fast and a little bit angry. So, and I always tell people that I think when people say pop punk, they always mean like Blink-182 or Green Day.
That whiny nasal
chord. Man, I think the Ramones are the first pop punk band, and that's what I think when people say that. So
it's not thrashy. It's more based on melody and melody and a pleasing set of chords.
They're pop songs played by guys who weren't very good at playing songs.
Wow, that's deep.
I mean, and they would have told you that they didn't think they were any good. Yeah. It just worked out. But so
but there's a lot of bands that fall under that category that. They got lucky, and there's the simplistic. There's no guitar solos. There's no Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah,
going on in their discography.
Tommy Ramone wasn't even playing drum fills, man. He was just pushing forward the whole time. Yeah. So
Johnny Cash's band.
Yeah,
a bunch of mechanics.
Yeah, but I've always kind of told people. I think that as I've gotten older, I've realized that a lot of my favorite music is more a product of whether it be the production or the instrument or the people playing the instruments. I enjoy it because of its limitations, not in spite of them. I think that there's something to be said for, I'm not that good at playing this guitar, but I'm going to figure out how to do something cool with it anyway. And sometimes keep it simple, stupid. Everybody says that all the time. And I think that sometimes simple's good. So
as a rhythm player who never learned a lead lick in my life, I approve that sentiment.
Yeah, very much so. I learned to play a whole bunch of lead guitar that I've probably promptly forgotten. 18-year-old me would punch current me if he heard how I played lead guitar. He'd be like, "What have you done with your life?"
But when did you actually pick up the guitar and the drums? I figured drums seemed to be like a newer revelation for you than the guitar.
So at like 12 or 13. So my mom used to be a wedding singer. She and my aunt would go sing at weddings. Like that's what they would do. And so there's always a guitar around the house. And as a kid, when you do as a kid, you could just strum it and do anything with it. And so her guitar had broken. She gave it to someone to fix, and like happens sometimes, it didn't happen quickly. Yeah. But she had a wedding to play, so she borrowed a guitar from a family friend. And I just, while it was at the house, I was like, I'm going to see if I can figure out how this works. I'm into music. I want to do this. So I started buying guitar magazines. I actually started buying Guitar World Acoustic, which I might have been the only person that ever bought that magazine. I don't know. You too?
Well, I never played anything but acoustic, so of course that's where I got my tabs pre-internet.
Yeah. So mostly for me it was just chord. It was chord sheets. It was just chords and lyrics, and I started to figure out how to play chords. And I remember I tell people, I started just you'd hit the chord once and sing the lines until it came to the next chord, and then you'd play the next chord, and like just one time.
That 13-second segue to get from the G to the C, getting the fingers in the right spot.
It rings long enough. I'll let it go until the next chord comes up,
What was the hardest chord for you? Mine was always F.
F was hard. Once I learned bar chords and got used to them, but it was rough. Mm-hmm. Of course it is. You don't have that strength in your hands, when you first start. Or it's maybe not even strength, it's just technique and not knowing how to do the thing. Mm-hmm. So that was definitely, F. FF.
Missed out on learning a lot of Tom Petty songs at the time because there's so many Fs.
Well, in my later life, I've just learned how to wrap my thumb around the top of the neck and do it that way. And it makes it a lot more ergonomical, and you can play like little kind of fun, melodies while you're doing it instead of having to be so rigid with it. But yeah, as far as drums, and this is one of my, it always makes me laugh to tell people this. I don't know what year it came out. I can't remember. I was in my very early 20s. I think it was like Guitar Hero World Tour. It was the first Guitar Hero game that came with a drum kit. And so it had a kick pedal, 3 drum pads, 2 cymbals. So it was more like an actual drum set than the Rock Band drum kit. And I was unemployed for a bit, and before I become unemployed, I happened to buy this bundle. So, I was just sitting around.
Did you lose your job because you stayed at home to play?
I didn't. No, I lost my job because I was bad at it, but that's a whole different story for a different podcast. So I had it was only a few weeks, but I started playing it, and it was, you start on easy mode and you're just doing the thing. But then I got another job, but I'd come home at night and play a little bit, and I just moved up to the next difficulty, and I go to the expert mode. And at some point I'm like, this feels like playing actual drums. Like, I think I need to buy a drum kit and see if I can, maybe if this translates. Playing the Guitar Hero guitar, it's 5 little plastic buttons. You're not learning anything.
No.
But with the drum parts, by the time you got to the expert mode, you were really basically playing the drum part.
You were near pert.
I would never be that. I couldn't be that. I don't have the patience or the want to practice that hard. But so I was getting to the place though where I was like, I think I could get by. So I went and bought a drum kit and some cymbals, just cheap stuff. And that's really how I got into drums. It's the dumbest thing, but it worked.
What was your first band? Were you in high school when you tried to form a band? Was it out of high school?
Now this is gonna be crazy. A lot of people don't know this. The first band I played with was local metal stalwarts, Catch 22.
I used to bar back at Sixpence, and I did some Catch 22 shows.
Yeah,
long ago.
So Hank, their guitar player, I had an old acoustic that needed tuners put on it. He lived in Beverly. He was, I think my mom knew him somehow, or dad. I can't remember exactly, but they're like, yeah, he works on guitars. We'll take it to him. So we took it to him. He had like a little studio in his basement. He had a bunch of stuff set up, and we played guitar together a little bit. And at that point, I was just listening to Megadeth basically every day and just trying to play shred music, which I was never that good at. But I got decent. And so
that's surprising to me. I can't imagine watching your fingers do.
I couldn't now. I wouldn't want to think it would hurt too much now, I feel like. But so he was impressed, and he's like, so he was in that band. He's like, well, we're looking for a rhythm guitar player. You might get to play a little bit of lead, mostly rhythm, Would you be interested? And I'm like 19. Metal band? Yeah, I'm in, dude. Like,
can I stay up past 10?
Yeah.
Can I go, can you sneak me into the bars?
Right. And I might have been maybe 20, but I think I was 19. And so, they're like, yeah, come play with us. And I go, and like the first time, meet TJ Barry, who's their frontman guitar player, who was a fantastic lead player. I like to think I actually learned some stuff just watching him play. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, Joe Bailey, who played guitar in Lycus for a long while before they took a hiatus, and obviously some things happened, but he played drums in that band at the time. So I got to meet Joe through that, which was very cool. One of the most talented people I've ever played with. So that was cool. We did some metal festivals and played some local gigs, and at the end of the day,
do a bear fest in the mall parking lot?
No, we never did that. We played some metal fest in Chillicothe, and we did a thing in Wheeling. Do you remember Mistress Julia from Fuse TV or whatever it was? She was like this lady that did a metal show. She was kind of famous, and she hosted the whole thing, and that was kind of neat. But it just kind of got to the place where I think it wasn't that I didn't enjoy it. It was almost one of those where the band just kind of took a lull, and I moved and Hank and I had kind of gotten into the rockabilly thing, and he was the first bass player in Cadillac Lester.
Was he the one that had the pompadour and would stand on the bass?
Nah, he was that was David McIntyre, who had played with 1313, who was from Parkersburg.
Another name, man. You name dropping a lot of the local favorites from the early 2000s.
Yeah, so Hank played with us for a while, and great bass player, phenomenal bass player. He started on electric bass, and then I convinced him to buy an upright because it's rockabilly, and he took to that thing really well. And it just, things kind of, nothing bad, just he had other things going on, and
life.
life, absolutely. You know, he had kids and he had things to do, and he had other projects I think that he wanted to try to make happen as well, and went our separate ways. And then Dave started playing with us, and that guy was a showman, like quite a showman.
He had me like percolating. he had me. He's cooking Frankie. Like he would literally be standing, spinning the bass, and then jumping on it and standing and riding it like a surfboard while he continued to play these sick riffs.
What I always thought was the funniest is like he just like pull a girl out of the crowd and put her on the bass, and then play around her, you know. And it was cool, man. It was cool.
He was the Eddie Van Halen of the upright bass rockabilly scene.
He's in Pittsburgh now. We've talked a time or two about maybe trying to like throw together a reunion show someday. You know, just one or two.
If you ever wanted to do anything, First City Records will have you any day of the week. I know it's not a big enough venue for what you guys are going to want to do, but I had to throw my hat in the game.
No, we don't care. It doesn't matter to me. I'm as happy to play in a record store as I am to play in a dive bar as I am to play on a festival stage. I couldn't care less.
So we do have to talk about your solo stuff as well. So you kind of you went from metal to rockabilly with Cadillac Lester, which is still one of my favorite bands to this day that I don't own anything by. Is there any physical media? Or is it digital?
I think so. That's the bad part. It's almost like lost media. I think that Tom, that played drums, still has a couple copies of the CD.
Oh.
I talked to him not that long ago about it. He was going to try to find them. I'm going to try to get them, you know, ripped off said CD and uploaded so that maybe we can at least have them online. They were on MySpace, and of course, that's not a thing anymore.
I actually found my old MySpace page, and still had my music was still uploaded. This was a few years ago. I don't have a clue what it was even called now, but I'm also trying to get Mental Pain back together for a reunion show in my store. Bill and Logan, not only are they really, really, really big fans of the store, they've they've actually donated some CDs, and I have like a patch off of one of their jackets, and I hung it in the store. It's down to whoever the third member is. I don't remember his name.
Fonz. His name is Alex, but everyone called it Fonz. Yeah.
It's okay.
I know that he was living. I think he was living somewhere in Ohio again. I know they talked about it. I've been in like a lot of bands with Bill.
Yeah.
So I'm always on him about that.
I went to high school with Bill, and this is going to be kind of news, but he was a loner, and kind of they kind of kept to themselves, and he scared me. And as an adult, and seeing him as an adult now, and getting to talk to him, and seeing his wife is one of the most biggest social media personalities out there. They have a page dedicated to their family, and Bill's probably just along for the ride with that, or maybe he loves it. I don't know.
He does.
It's just and seeing Logan every time I go to Aldi's, and he's like the manager, and he's clean cut, and I really want to sit down with both of them and have like a musicians roundtable.
Yeah.
And find out what led from that to where they are in life now, and hopefully find out that they're super happy. That's all I hope for anybody.
I know Bill is, and it's funny. People talk about Bill when he was, people that knew him back then, and like he was in a punk band, so it's like that's intimidating, whatever.
It was very intimidating.
He's like the nicest guy that's ever lived. I love that dude. Like I'd go to war with that dude if I had to. You know what I mean? Like
a lot of my problems with people like them was my own insecurities, because they were in the same things that I were into, but we ran in completely different groups. And because he had a group and I didn't, I was literally like the lone wolf, and he had a small group of his people. But I don't even know if he remembers me from school. And
there it was.
Yeah, we had to take a pause for the cause, as it were. But to get back to you.
Well, that's actually a good segue, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
Because the first time I met Bill Miller was the first time I played drums in a band.
That is a great segue. Accidental?
Yeah, no, it works out.
No, we went to your wiki page. This is all set up.
Oh, jeez. that page is full of lies. No, I obviously, I used to go to the Harmer Tavern a lot.
Yeah, we did.
A lot.
You're the one who told me about their bologna sandwiches.
Yeah, they're delicious, and everyone should eat them. But so I met Sean Jones, who's a local, guitar player that's been in a bunch of bands and is very good. And we got to be friends. And he's like, "Hey, we're starting this band." And I had told him I played a little bit of drums. I hadn't been playing that long. I played some drums. And he's like, "Would you be interested in just maybe coming and hanging out and seeing how it goes?" I'm like, "Okay, what kind of stuff?" He's like, "It's kind of Southern rock, kind of newer rock, just somewhere in the middle of it." And So I said, yeah, let's do that. So he takes me out in the middle of nowhere, like out behind Newport, Newmat area. The band was called Black Bourbon Devils. We played a lot at that point. So the songwriter, singer in that band, Luke Green, met Bill, Dan Lee, who's been in a lot of bands around here as well.
These are names that are very new to me, but I might know them by their faces.
Yeah, you probably would. So Dan's in that band Sad Squatch. I don't know if you've seen them. He plays bass.
I sell their merch in my store, and Nate does all my tattoos.
Yeah, he just did one on me.
I just booked another appointment with him. I'm getting a Johnny Cash right here.
Sweet. So yeah, I get in there, and I set up my little cheap drum kit, and they start playing some songs, and I try to play along, and to my surprise, they're like, yeah, this is pretty cool. We like this. Do you want to be in the band? And I'm like, yeah.
What kind of music was the Black Bourbon Devils?
It was, like I said, it was like Southern rock-y. There was some of that, like, you could tell that those dudes grew up listening to the Outlaws and Skynyrd and probably maybe the Allman Brothers. But there was a little more edge to it. It was 3 guitars, so there were definitely like some harmony guitar things that were more the Southern kind of harmony guitar things. Very cool, great songs. And I played with them for like a year and a half, and they kind of wanted to go a different direction that was not something that I was prepared or able to do on drums. And we amicably just kind of said, you know what, like this has run its course. I was doing the Cadillac Lester thing in tandem, so it was kind of tough for them too with trying to schedule. So I bowed out of that. So Luke Green, who was the songwriter, frontman of that band, maybe a week after I decided I don't want to, we all kind of amicably decide that I'm not going to play drums anymore. It's like, hey man, I'm doing an acoustic side project. Would you want to like play lead and do harmonies on them? Yeah, that'd be great. So that is what became Hayfield and Crow, which
I forgot about them. Oh my God, I loved you guys.
So yeah, I mean, and we went from I played with him. I've played with him probably for 10 years in different ways. Because that went from an acoustic duo to a full band that had, like we got 2 full length or 3 full lengths, So,
anything on vinyl or just CD?
No, just CD in that project.
Vinyl is too expensive.
Well, yeah. So, and I guess that's to that point, after I'll get to this later. It's too much of a segue.
Okay.
But anyway, so he and I started doing the acoustic thing. We self-recorded the first record. It was all acoustic.
Well, you have a great ear in the studio, so I'm sure what self-recording, you are of a production mind anyway.
It's my favorite thing to do in music. I love playing out. Playing out's great. But I always say that like recording's like putting together a puzzle that you don't even have all the pieces for at first. Like you got to make the pieces and then you put them together. And I really like that. And I always tell people, I know enough music theory to get by, but I never want to learn too much because it's kind of magic when you do it that way. And it's hard, like, you can't see the magic once you've seen the wires, if that makes any sense,
I talked to the lead guitarist and the only original member left of Uriah Heep. His name is Mick Box. And I asked him the same kind of question. I was like, has recording changed over the years? And he says most of their albums, they would just go in there all in the same room and everything would bleed into different mics. And they didn't give a shit because they all kind of like that sound. But on their newer albums, they're more polished. They, different parts at different times, more layering. And he says he likes both equally, but it's obviously an old school way of thinking to do it all in the same take.
So my take on that is I think if you all record live in a room together, there's a certain energy. You don't have to use a click track if you don't want to. If these songs are well prepared, you kind of get that push and pull because you're used to doing it that way. And a little bit of tempo change, a little up and down doesn't hurt. It's energy, The only downfall to that is when it comes time, if you want to do overdubs, it's hard. So when you want to add all the little pretty things,
because you're not all in the same space, you're not feeling that energy, and then you're just really going to have to know the track before you hit record.
And when there is a little ebb and flow and push and pull on the tempo, it makes things hard because it's like you're not in the moment. So I like both ideas. I've never done a live, like a live in the studio record with everybody together. I'd love to, and it's something that I've talked about with the band I'm in currently, but it's one of those things where it's like, we really got to have these songs down before we do it, because there's no room for error. You don't have, you can't edit. I mean, you can a little, but you can't edit like
you just have to start the track over.
Right. Exactly.
So we're going to be doing the Jake Dunn and the Blackbirds First City Sessions, which is going to be a stripped down acoustic or I don't know, you could bring your kit and use the feather brushes, whatever, or you could just be banging on a guitar and just doing harmony. I don't know. We haven't talked about it. We haven't finalized it, but I want to see you guys kind of do something like Oyo, just wrap yourselves around a microphone or a set of microphones,
right.
and just record. I mean, you guys know your songs. You're the tightest band that I've heard in this area in years.
I'll take that. And we hadn't mentioned that band yet. So yeah,
we'll get there. We'll get to Jake Dunn.
But no, and actually, so I don't know. I'll have to do something percussion wise. I'm not prepared to learn all those songs, as far as.
Do you have a slap box?
No, and I never will. It's not my thing. I've tried it, and I don't dislike it. It doesn't feel good for me.
Can you do the drums and be Jesse Forrest but be restrained?
Yeah, you put towels on them and you play with hot rods. It's not that hard. It's really not.
It's kind of going to break my heart to not see you get all sweaty and gross.
I'll still get sweaty and gross.
Okay, as long as you get sweaty, we'll be happy.
Yeah, I'm a little hefty. That happens regardless of what you do.
Well, I did find out the other day that we do have air conditioning, and it's only a wall unit, but we will be blasting it for you pre you showing up.
Any port in a storm, that's fine.
Yeah. Well. All right, so let's get back to your musical journey, as it were. So Cadillac Lester, Hayfield and Crow. Where do you go from there?
So at that point, I'm still doing Hayfield and Crow with Luke. We're playing a lot local, having a good time, writing songs. And it's always the same story. So the way I got into Black Bourbon Devils is I hung out at the Harmer too much.
The Harmer, the Adelphia.
So then I started hanging out at the Galley.
Galley.
A fair amount. Luke and I do. We after work we'd go have a couple beers, whatever. And
PBR on tap there, super cheap too.
Yeah, it was at that point. It was like there was all kinds of weird stuff. Like you could get like a beer tower, like you could do at a bowling alley. I don't know. Anyway, so not long after that, they had a new general manager, Bill Marks. Everybody called him Bam, and he comes to me at some point and he's like, "Hey, we've been talking about doing an open mic here, and we were wondering if you would want to host it." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'd do that. That'd be very cool." I was like, "Do you want an acoustic open mic or a full band?" He's like, "That's kind of up to you. Whatever you can make work, make work." So the first few times it was just acoustic. I just told people bring your acoustic guitars. I said, if anybody wants to play full band, we have enough PA. We didn't use the main PA. They had a smaller one that we used. But I was like, if you want to bring a bass amp and drums and electric guitar amps, we still have enough PA to get your vocals across, so feel free. And so my friend Kevin Deal, who's a very good drummer, he'd been in several local bands that we used to play with, fairly regularly. He'd be on the same bill as us, and we had got to be friends. And he said, well, what if I just bring my drum kit and we'll just leave it under the stage if they don't mind? So we have it, every week. And so I asked him, and they said, yeah, we can do that. And we could run the bass direct into the PA, and that was fine. And so I had a spare guitar amp that I just threw under the stage, and we started doing full band, and every week, if you wanted to get up, if you needed a drummer, I'll play drums with you. You need a bass player, I'll play bass with you. I'm the host. I'll do whatever
every good open mic night guy who has a full band setup needs to be able to be the utility player.
Yeah,
and he really does.
I did. I mean, whatever anybody needed. If you just want me to sing harmony vocals with you, I'm happy to do it. Whatever. So we did that for a while, a long while, and it was.
I wanted to interject one thing.
Sure.
I never came to one, and it was because of my personal insecurities. By that point in our friendship, we hadn't talked in a long time. I kind of felt like maybe you didn't like me, and then I thought I'm not good enough to want, because you were hanging out in my opinion, being in Parkersburg, the upper echelon of musicians in the area, which you really were, and it was intimidating for me because I know my limitations, and I just. It was no disrespect that I never came to one. It was my own personal inhibitions not inhibitions, but feelings and concerns about my own playing ability.
I have those all the time, so I get that.
I loved seeing your posts and watching you thrive and seeing all these people show up, and it was a good time. For you guys,
the amount of bands that came out of that went and got gigs and played a lot. I ended up in 4 bands at one time because of the open mic. We did that whole thing we called Rivertown Revival, where it was all these bands, and that's what I'm leading to. At some point, and it's funny, I take a week off. I decided I'm going to go to Columbus and stay for 4 days. I need out of town. I'm like, yeah, Columbus is not that expensive. It's close to home. I'm just going to go take a little breather, go hang out somewhere else. Yeah. So Nate that plays in Sad Squatch, played in the Last Minute Honky Tonk Band, works at Lure Tattoo. Hit him up, he's good.
Hell of a good guy.
Very, very good.
Great playlist while you're getting a tattoo. As well.
Absolutely.
A lot of rockabilly.
Well,
punkabilly.
He knows how much I love hardcore, so we listen to a bunch of that. But anyway, so he had hosted that week, and I think he had actually mentioned me. He's like, "There's this dude that showed up that's really good that has never been here before." I'm like, "Oh, that's cool." So the next week I'm back and I host, and there's this, and at this point I'll say this kid, he was like in his, I was at that point 27 or 8, so he's probably like 21 or 2, and he comes in with this like little like kind of Lure acoustic guitar that was like a smaller guitar, sounded very good. He starts playing his songs, and I'm like, oh man. It was all actually, I always tell people, and this is the truth, I was like, who the hell is this guy? You know, because he's not one of us, but he's really good, and I'm not sure how I feel about it.
He's going to take my spot.
No, not even that. It's like, but who is this guy? So he had come up and introduced himself before. He's like, hey, my name's Jacob Dunn. I came here last week. I saw, they told me that you were the normal host and you weren't here, whatever. I wanted to introduce myself. And
he's such a gentleman.
When he wants to be, yeah. No,
you know, on a deeper level than I do.
He is. I'm just kidding.
When he messages me, he is the most like sincere, sweetest guy.
No, just
humble as hell too.
Very good dude. But so he introduces himself. He there you go. He plays his songs again. And he had just put out this solo record called Driving that had a lot of really good songs on it. And so, I'd get up and play drums with whoever wanted a lot. And I would just play them really hard because I'm like, well, it's open mic and I just want to have fun. So I'm going to play like a caveman. And so he comes a few weeks, in a row. And one night, back then it was a Tuesday night open mic and I'd get Wednesdays off. And so it's Tuesday night. It was one of the weeks where I had Wednesday off and it's almost over. And he goes, hey man, what are you doing after this? I'm like, nothing. I'm going to go get a room at the Lafayette because that's what I would do those nights. I'd drink a little bit and I'd go get a room at the Lafayette. He's like,
you're a high roller, man.
Well, they were paying me they were paying me enough money where it was just enough to get a room at Lafayette, and I just kind of it comes out in the wash. You know what I mean?
So you got to have a hell of a time for free.
Good time.
It's like going to the casino and making enough money to eat a steak dinner and go home with the same amount you left with.
Absolutely. So they would give me like free beers and enough money that I could get a room at the Lafayette if I needed to.
Hell yeah.
So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get a room. He's like, you want to go like to the Harmer or somewhere? I'm like, oh, you've been to the Harmer? He's like, yeah, I like it there. I'm like, yeah, we'll go to the Harmer. That's cool. So we went over and hung out. And we were just having some beers or whatever. And he's like, hey, I wanted to talk to you about something. I'm like, okay, what's up? He's like, so these songs I've been writing, I really want to put a band together. And I was just really kind of wondering if you would want to play drums. And I'm like, you have to know good drummers. Like, why are you talking to me about this? Like I like playing drums. I love
drummers and bassists are like unicorns in a small town.
Yeah, and I guess maybe that's. I always tell people around here, if you own a drum kit, you can count to 3 and 4, and you show up on time, you always get work.
And you don't have a drug habit.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So I was like, yeah, man, I'm into it. Like, I don't know if you're going to like it or not, but let's get together. So he takes me to Pomeroy, introduces me to Dustin Nash, lead guitar player. Yeah. And I'd already known Bobby Wheeler, who plays bass in Jake Dunn and the Blackbirds. He and I
He's another great guy.
Oh, fantastic, dude. He and I had met at a couple open mics and hung out and got on real well. So, like, go down there, we do our first practice. He shows us some songs. It all goes really well. And I guess the rest is history. I've been doing it for almost a decade with a little break with them. So that's how all of, like, I always say that open mic really kind of broadened all my horizons. I also ended up playing with Levi Westfall from Belpre, who's
just hung out with him this past weekend, recording for the Moon Mullins show at the Lafayette. He is another super soft-spoken, humble, quiet guy that has so much knowledge that he doesn't throw it at you. He doesn't try to lure over you that he knows more. But I mean, honestly, I am not a sound engineer by any means, and he was throwing off all these terms. But he helped me record the Moon Mullins show for Moon for free. I did it because I really just wanted to be part of the thing, and he made me a success that night. So I just want to shout out Levi.
Oh yeah,
as a thank you.
I always shout out Levi. A great songwriter too, and he wouldn't tell you that, and he'd actually probably try to tell you the opposite, but he's wrong.
Did he marry his songwriting partner or is that just a singer that he?
No, when I knew him, I still know him obviously, but when we hung out a lot, they didn't know each other at all. He's always just been a really good songwriter, and I know they're doing stuff together, and I've only got to see him a time or two, and they're very good. But he's been writing really good songs. He was like 19 when he started coming to open mic, and he had like all these songs that were pretty cool, And it's like, so I got in a band with him. So that's where I was getting to this whole 4 bands thing because of open mic. I was still in Hayfield and Crow. We had become a full band. I get with the Blackbirds. I end up in Levi's band that we end up calling New Feather. So at that point, I'm in 3 bands.
See, I didn't even know you were in New Feather. I knew Levi.
Oh yeah, I play drums. I play drums in that band. And then so we did this thing for a whole summer we called Rivertown Revival, and it was those 3 bands and Corey Shields from here in Park.
What happened to him?
Corey just kind of, I think maybe he got a little burnout. I think his goal was always to play mountain stage, and he got to do it. And he's kind of just like, you know what, man, I got a family and I'm just trying to live my life. And I did the thing I wanted to do. And
he used to come to my open mic night all the time.
Yeah.
Super nice, super humble.
Oh,
put out that CD. I went to the release party and all that. And then after that, I just kind of feel like he disappeared.
Yeah. So for a minute, it wasn't very long. I recorded a record with him. He comes to me at one point and he's like, I want to put a trio together. He's like, I've never thought about doing like a full band with drums and stuff, but he's like, watching all you guys do it, I think it'd be fun. He's like, would you play drums? And I'm like, well, we're doing this Rivertown Revival thing all the time already. Like, basically it was to accommodate me because I was in all these acts.
You probably lost 20 pounds a weekend with all the sweat you poured playing in all those bands.
No, I stayed fat. It wasn't hard. Just lots of Taco Bell and beers. It's fine.
All beer, no water.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But a little bit of water. But so he asked me, and he's like, in that band, it was myself and Corey and Tracy Good, who was a very good local singer. And
what happened to her?
I haven't talked to Tracy in a bit. I know that she and her husband moved away. I'm not sure. It's been a while.
She used to come to mine as well and like do like live shows on her cell phone, doing for like tips and stuff.
Yeah, and she was on like Telescope or whatever that app was. She
Something
did that
like
a lot.
that,
But no, she was a good songwriter, great singer, and it was fun. And it just kind of ran its course for Corey. I think it was one of those things he wanted to do it. And then we did it for a while, and he's like, okay, I'm just gonna kind of go back to doing the acoustic thing. He did that for a little bit longer, and I think he was just done. And that's cool, man.
But it's kind of a shame because not only was he a decent guitarist,
he's a great,
but he had a the raspy voice. But the best thing he had going for him is he was handsome as hell.
Oh, he's good looking.
He's a very good looking guy.
If you ever get a chance to look up the stuff that trio did,
what was it called?
The Corey Shields Trio.
Okay.
That guy is so much better a lead guitar player than anybody would have ever thought. I mean,
I only ever heard him acoustic, so I didn't know.
He was unreal. I'm sure he still is. He's a big John Mayer guy, so like a lot of that kind of thing, like, but very good. So anyway, I was doing that 4-band thing for a bit, and then that all kind of condensed. That thing kind of went by the wayside. New Feather. We had made some lineup changes. Adam Noe from Horse Burner started playing drums, and I was playing keys, which was probably a bad decision. But
isn't Horse Burner like a metal band?
Yes, they're a very good metal band.
Yeah.
They're one of my favorite metal
My
bands.
buddy Rob Howard was the original bass player years and years and years ago.
Yeah.
We used to go down to the Inferno on 7th Street. Shout out to the former Inferno to listen to Rob Howard at doing the Horse Burner thing.
But yeah, so Adam was playing drums and I was playing keys. But like I found out playing, it's not that I can't play keys. I didn't really have a great time doing it. So they played some more shows. I just kind of bowed out for a little bit. Kept doing the Hayfield and Crow thing because that was like my baby too. That was Luke and I's baby. Mm-hmm. We were very. That was always a fun time because I felt like, and I don't mean this in any bad way. With Jake, Jake is one of those guys who, like, when he brings you a song, he's got a really hard idea about it. He's already kind of thought about it really hard. You know what I mean? He's got, and not to say that he's not willing to accept input and changes, because he is. But Luke would be that guy who'd bring me like a guitar part and some lyrics and be like, hey, what do we do with this? And I'd be like, oh, I get to polish it. I get to polish the turd, And I don't mean that in a bad way either. But so
then you get to put your production chops as well as your performance chops at the same time. So that had to be a feel-good moment.
Yeah, because Luke was that guy. He would bring me a rough idea, an acoustic guitar part and some vocals, some lyrics. And then we would sit with it and drink too many beers, and we would just like record on our phones, and then the next day we'd listen back and go, okay, that worked and that didn't, and we'll figure it out from there. But anyway, so I was just doing those two bands, just the Blackbirds and Hayfield and Crow. And then Hayfield and Crow Luke he's got 3 kids, and that's a busy life.
I have 4. I understand.
Yeah, so no, you get it.
I get it.
And he just he got to the place where it was more than he was wanting to do, and that was okay. So we just kind of put that on an indefinite hiatus. I'm not saying that's forever either, but
anytime that you can leave a band or a scenario like that on the terms that we're not unhappy performing. It's just, the paths are changing. I'm one of those people that feel like there's nothing wrong with people coming in and out of your life. You don't have to, just because we were friends for this period doesn't mean that you fit where I'm at mentally and emotionally now, but that doesn't mean that years down the road we can't get together and have beers and play music again.
And it doesn't mean that, if I see you, I'm gonna say hey and let's hang out, and
Exactly.
It's fine. But let's crack this Guinness. Huzzah! It's good for you. So that kind of went by the wayside. He and I still hang out a lot, but he's not musically minded right now. We've talked about it, maybe someday. But so the Blackbirds kind of carried on, and we did a lot. And I think we all got really burned out.
That's what Jake was saying when I talked to him. And
we took like a 2-year hiatus, but we're back. And so we lost a guitar player for about a year, Dustin Nash, who was a phenomenal guitar player, great dude. He just kind of got to the place where he was in the same situation, burned out. I mean, I was probably burned out too, but I'm that guy who's like, I refuse. I'm just going to keep powering through until I can't.
You're going to burn out, and it's better to burn out than to fade away.
Yeah,
so you're just going to stay burnt out.
Well, my problem is I've done this several times. I'll get burnt out. I'm like, I'm quitting. I'm done.
And then you take a week trip somewhere in the world and then come back.
I took like 6 months off one time. I was like, I'm not playing music anymore. And by let's say month 3, I'm starting to itch. Starting to itch pretty good. By month 6, I'm like, if I don't start doing this again, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. So I always tell people I don't know how to not do it. I don't, and I don't think I ever will. I think I'll do this until I croak.
Okay. And on that note, we're going to take a short break, and we'll be back, and we're going to have an acoustic performance here in the studio, as well as we're going to talk a little bit about mental health and where he is today with things, what he wants for the future, and we're going to talk more about his solo acoustic stuff, which is something that I love dearly by him, that he has not even scratched the surface on, that during all of this time, he was also playing countless solo performances, and his love-hate relationship with the band The Proclaimers and the song I Would Walk 500 Miles. We'll be back in just a second. FirstCityRecordStore.com is your #1 source for new and used vinyl, CDs, cassettes, apparel, and much more. 90% of our inventory is now available on the website, and we're updating it daily with all the collections that we've been getting. So make sure to check out FirstCityRecordStore.com. We're not just a record store.
I didn't write this song, but I get to play it on drums a lot. This is a song written by my dear friend Jake Dunn, of Jake Dunn and the Blackbirds fame, and it's called 52 Cadillac. I could cry. Feeling so lonesome I could cry. Take a little ride up to Oak Hill. In the backseat on booze and pills. Sometimes living just ain't enough. Then you fall asleep and you never wake up. Then you fall asleep and you never wake up.
And that was Jesse Forrest leading us back in from break with the song 57 Chevy.
Nah, that's not it.
Damn it. What was
52 Cadillac. That might be it.
All right. Well, okay. Admittedly, my 9.5s are a little higher than your Guinness. Salute. And yeah, that's one of my favorite songs off of the Jake Dunn and the Blackbirds album. That leads us into our very first part of the segment. We have a special show coming up that is a free show. It is for the Great Race in downtown Marietta, and it's kind of a big friggin' deal. So we got Jake Dunn and the Blackbirds coming into First City Records yet again. This time I'm bringing you guys in for what they call the Great Race. I had a meeting with the lady who is taking part in like helping build the Great Race roster here. Evidently, there is a bunch of classic cars coming in, and the race is not about speed. It is about consistency and keeping their like 35 miles per hour for this block of time, trying to keep the consistency. So that way you cross the finish line at exactly, I think, 2 minutes or a minute and a half to 2 minutes, whatever it is, after the other car.
That's a really common race style, like in Europe. They do that a lot, especially with classic cars. Like
as somebody who used to own a car detailing business, I know nothing about cars, and this isn't for me. But all of the cars will be parking as they come in on Front Street, lining up from the bottom all the way to the top, and they have to stay there until no earlier than 7:30 p.m. So we got you guys coming in to play that evening as a free show for not only all of our out-of-town guests and people, but all of our locals. It will be 100% free. And we got Jake Dunn and the Blackbirds for a 2-hour set that day. And we're looking for buskers if you're interested in playing outside, because the street's going to be closed all day. There's going to be hundreds, potentially up to thousands of people from out of town, because there is a car show that is also from the bottom of 2nd Street all the way up to the top. And food vendors and food trucks. We do have a person from the Great Race we're going to interview on a later podcast, because this is not until June. But let's talk a little bit about Jake Dunn and the Blackbirds. You guys just came back from a hiatus, right?
Yeah, but I think like initially it was just right about 9 years ago, which blows my mind. I see, your social media memories.
Yeah.
And I feel like, some part of me feels like I've been in that band for 10 minutes, and the other one feels like I've been in that band for 30 years. So I don't know, but I think it's been like 9 years from our first show, somewhere right in that area, which is crazy.
And I feel like we're getting the best of Jake Dunn right now, since coming back, because for one, he has an amazing talent, but he had a nice break to recharge those engines, and he's came back full force. My God, he's tenacious. He's one of the nicest guys I've ever met, but he's very tenacious about going after gigs and keeping the train rolling. But he's also got a bun in the oven.
He does.
And
due soon.
I have a feeling that, break time is coming again. So to be able to get you guys in to hopefully a third time for that acoustic set, before maybe another potential hiatus because life needs to settle.
I don't think we're looking at a hiatus. He and I have talked.
Oh, good.
I don't think we're going to go as hard, and not that we've been going that hard since we've been back anyway. I think that all of us kind of agreed that we didn't want to oversaturate like we had done before. That's where the burnout comes from, and you don't want that, know.
Todd Burge told me something very good. He's like, there's a reason I don't play 100 shows in Parkersburg and Marietta and Belpre every year. People stop coming out. The burnout factor for the fun and the crowd too. He plays like maybe 1 to 3 times a year in this area. He'll play elsewhere.
Yeah.
But I completely understand that. And as a former musician, getting people to come out at all is hard, let alone on a consistent basis.
Right. And we got to the place too where it was like, I think we got bad at saying no. Somebody would be like, hey, you want to play here? And we drive 3 hours, and it wouldn't be a great turnout because there was no strong local support. And that is what it is. We should have known that.
What about this last weekend? Jake seems to really have liked whatever event.
Oh, man.
What was that?
We played Fallsburg Summer Stage in Fallsburg, Kentucky, which is a pretty good festival every year. Like, it's a very good festival every year. So the night before us, Buffalo Wobbs and the Price Hill Hustle was the headliner, and they're very good. Then the day we played that night, Arlo McKinley was the headliner, which is that's a big, he's
I saw a shit ton of his albums.
Yeah,
he sells well in my store.
So we played first that day, which was weird because we played at 11 a.m., which might be the earliest show I've ever played. I think it might be. I'm not sure of it, but I think it probably is. And so we get up there, and there's not a lot of people like on the lawn or whatever. But it's a big time camping festival. Like there's tents and there's campers, and there's people camping all over around where they have kind of a pretty good sized lawn, to hang out in for people to watch music. And by our third or fourth song, people started waking up. Like we woke them up. Whether they liked that or not, I'm not 100% sure, but I think they did. We got a lot of compliments afterwards. So it's something that we had been looking forward to, and we weren't sure what to expect, but it turned out really cool. And I hope we get to go back there. If you like good regional music, and Fallsburg's like 3 hours from here, so it's not like 2.5 from Parkersburg. So it's not like it's really that big a drive. Very good festival, well put together, good vendors, good acts. They did 2 stages, so it was kind of one of those back and forth where you always had live music. There was no lull while the one band tore down and the other set up. Very cool event.
What was that festival that you had me come out and perform at one year? Mud something earlier?
No, I did that thing called Hollapalooza that time. You
came to the Hollow. It was muddy.
That was at Heist Hollow out in Waterford. Hollow. Yeah, that was a 2-3 day. I had like 20 bands or something, and I was just a baby. I was like 22 or 3 when I did that, and it was fun, but it stressed me out so much. I think it might have taken years off my lifespan. I'm not sure.
I still have the recordings. My friend Alana, who had with her mother and my friend Mary. Alana.
Shout out to Mary. Yeah,
always Mama. She recorded a lot of that, so I still have. They were originally on my YouTube account, but I've since privated them so I can keep them in my memories. That was a fun day.
It was. Did you play on Sunday? Is that what it was? Maybe?
Dude, that I don't remember.
I don't remember because we did like an acoustic Sunday because everybody camped, and it was like, well, everybody wake up. And I think we only went to like 4 or 5 that day, maybe if that.
It was a small crowd because everybody either because it had rained and it was just very muddy. Yeah. That's why I thought it was mud related. Yeah. But I remember playing a mixture of my tunes. I played a Bright Eyes song. I played Hallelujah by Jeff Buckley. A lot of originals. I think that maybe I don't remember any other covers.
That was cool. It was cool though. I mean,
hell of a fun day.
It was good. We had a lot of really great bands.
That's the biggest thing I've ever done, honestly, festival wise, as far as like because I've never really had the aspiration to go after anything really big, just enough to make some money, meet some girls. That was my early 20s. And then I did the open mic scene. I met the girl and had the kid, and then it slowed down for me.
You found the finish line. You crossed it, and you're like, I don't have to do this anymore. Like not like this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. For a little bit.
We've done a good bit of we've done Huntington Music and Arts Festival, which is always very cool. We did this thing last weekend. We did Mountain Music Festival, which is down I don't even remember where it was, but it was a good time. I always tell people this is the saddest thing for me. So pre-COVID, like 2019, we were booking festival dates.
Yeah.
So I was working for a truck dealership as an outside sales guy, and I found this old 1959 GMC bus that had been a gospel band's bus. And it was for sale, and it wasn't that much money. And so I bought it because I couldn't drive it. It's like this old 59 is an unsynchronized transmission, which means you have to like double clutch and do all kinds of weird stuff to drive it. But my dad was a truck driver for years. So I said to him, I was like, hey, we got all these festival dates we're trying to book, and we had several. I'm like, if we get this bus, would you drive us? He's like, yeah, I would do that. He's like, get me away from the house for a few days. You know, I like driving like old, weird, giant buses, I guess, whatever. And then, so those were all 2020 dates. And when COVID hit, they all just obviously vanished.
I think honestly, knowing you and your social media and just knowing you for all these years, I think the opportunity to spend that time with your dad was more important than just playing those gigs.
Oh, no.
Am I right?
Yeah. No, it was funny. I would come home at night from work, and he always got home before I did. So my parents live like right behind me. Basically, they gave me a property because they're sweethearts, and I did some nice things for them that we won't talk about that don't matter. It's not important years ago. And so they live right behind me. So the bus is parked back there, and it needed a little work. We drove it home from New Martinsville, so it was okay. But it was this old Detroit diesel, which was what my dad worked on as a young man, so he was excited about it. So I'd come home from work every night, and I'd pull around behind where they lived, and he would always just have like the engines in the rear of this thing, and he'd have like the rear hatch up just working on it. I'm like, what are you doing? So I learned more about two-stroke Detroit diesel engines, which no one, it's obsolete knowledge. Like no one uses them anymore. But I learned
Dude, I sell records for a living, so knowing the gold mine grade scale for 1950s records, well, I feel your dad very much.
Yes, no, absolutely. The only reason I know about gold mine at all is because of my dear friend Jim Gustafson, as it turns out.
You know, he called me and I gave him. He got a bunch of test pressings in this week for his steamroller, I believe, is turning like 50 or something, and he got test pressings and he wants to maybe potentially sell them. I was helping him come up with pricing schedules, and I have a bunch of blank sleeves I was just giving him as a gift, because they didn't send them in sleeves. Well, anyways, he admitted to me that Warner Brothers is only paying him 18%.
Yeah, that's the business. That's the business these days.
And that's why Bandcamp, pledge driving, getting fans and friends and family to buy my artwork, get an autographed copy, whatever. Yeah. Please, please, please support local music on the Bandcamp and the small end level, because these major labels suck you dry, and they tour you to death just to live, because they're not making a dime almost on what's coming in on the media end.
I always say the model has flipped. It used to be you made a record, you toured so you'd sell your record because you got royalties off your record, and that's how people made a living. They got royalties from record sales. And the model has flipped so much, and in a bad way. No one buys records much anymore. You know what I mean? No one buys a new album. They do, but not as much as they used to.
Definitely not as much.
It's all on Spotify or Apple Music, or
unless their name is Taylor Swift.
And I have no problem with that.
Me either.
I actually kind of really enjoy that new record, but that's beside the point. It's crazy. So now you tour to make your money, but and then you got venues taking merch cuts, and you've got it's hard. It's hard out there.
Yeah. And from working with me that I'll either buy a whole box of a small band that's playing in my stores vinyl, which I did with the Greens, or we'll work out a deal, and I'm not taking a cut on local musicians, small musicians to have a CD, a single, a vinyl, whatever. I'm only taking enough to cover my taxes and card fees. Yeah. I don't want to be part of the problem. I want to be part of the solution. And honestly, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I'm building. We're still year one. I'm building relationships.
Yeah.
Not only with the community and getting people to trust me with their collections, but also with the local music scene and the regional music scene. And I just want everybody out there to know that the big wigs are taking everything from their musicians, especially people like Jim. Jim wears his heart on his sleeve.
Great guy. Great guy.
He is a great guy, and he's still a fabulous musician. And he wrote albums that to this day are selling for hundreds and hundreds of dollars on the secondary market on Discogs, which is where we do all of our pricing. And all he wants to do is reissue his albums, and sell them at a fair price at his shows. And he's only going to make 18%.
Yeah.
That is like $4 to $5 at most.
Yeah.
At most per sale.
It's so crazy to me. So I went to school with Jim's son. We were in the same grade. So for most of my young life, and Jim's son's name is Jimmy. So it was Big Jim and Little Jim, you know.
I didn't know he had kids.
Oh yeah.
I've known him for 20 years. Yeah. Never knew he had kids.
I think just Jimmy. But anyway, so for a lot of years, he was just like Big Jim, my buddy Jimmy's dad, you know. And I got into like a lot of stoner rock stuff. I still love a lot of like stoner rock stuff, you know, like Caius and Sleep and all that, like stoner metal, stoner rock, whatever.
King Gizzard?
I wish the songs were maybe 2/3 as long, but I don't dislike it.
I think there's too many albums. Too quickly.
I like it when they're heavier. Like I really like I don't know, when they're a little more metal is probably more for me. But anyway, so years later, you know, and like I bought my first guitar, or I got my first guitar as a Christmas gift, and Jimmy had come to stay at my house, and Jim comes to pick him up, and I was excited to show Jim my guitar, you know. And he grabs it and just starts shredding on it. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize he was like that kind of guitar player. But I never thought about it for years. And then at some point or another, this dear friend of mine, Jason Lockhart, shout out to Igor, he and I were talking about it, and he's like, you know, I buy stuff off Jim all the time. He's like, those first few records, like they're all good, but the first few are amazing. He's like, you need to go listen to Let Me In right now.
Let Me In, Master Psych, Steamroller.
Yeah.
Really good stuff on those early albums.
So I go and listen to Let Me In, and I'm like, that is really good. Like, it's psychedelic rock, but it's like, it's proto stoner rock. You know, it's great stuff. Really good stuff. So, you know.
Wizards of Psych, not Masters.
Wizard of Psych, yeah. I remember, he had like a crystal ball in his hands.
I have a sealed cassette of that.
Hell yes.
In my collection over there.
What's funny, I was telling you way earlier about the cassette collection I got.
Yeah.
One of the cassettes was Switch On, which was Jim's band when he moved down here. He was not doing Puba anymore. He did a band called Switch On. And I've listened to that cassette a lot of times. It's good stuff.
Jim messaged me, and he says he actually played a show with Uriah Heep in the 70s, and he sent me the flyer for it. It was under a name, Rat something or other. He was in
was it Biggie Rat?
Biggie Rat.
Yeah.
And I showed the flyer to Mick Box after the podcast, and he's like, "Oh my God, that guy is still alive." I'm like, "Yeah, buddy."
Dude's still a shredder. He's still great. Man.
Yes, he is. And let's pivot away from music. Let's pivot. Yeah, we're already at the over an hour mark. Can you believe it?
How has that happened? It's like we haven't hung out in a minute.
Yeah, it is. We're catching up on a we hung out for half a decade, and then we're catching up on a decade of just kind of just saying hey as we see each other. But let's talk a little bit about mental health issues. As some people know from watching or listening to these podcasts, I'm a big proponent of doing the manly check-in, kind of seeing where people are. Social media is kind of a double-edged sword. You live by it, die by it. And sometimes it's a cry for help. Sometimes it's a plea for attention. But in your case, it's like, here's the shows that I'm doing. And then in the meantime, it's like I'm hurting and I'm reaching out. And a lot of people have reached out to me to want to make sure that you're okay.
No, I'm good. I'm good. And I don't ever mean it to be that way. Sometimes I think, and I told someone this maybe 2 weeks ago. I said, I think that I need to learn to be more intentional about the way I phrase things, because it's never really a cry for help. It's usually an observation or just a, hey, I'm having a bad day.
A feeling.
It is. So I'm diagnosed panic disorder, and it sucks. It's not fun. It's not fun at all. You know, I'm on medicine when I need to be. But not even but, and I've come to this place. I'm 35, and if I'm being honest, I think that I had a lot of that 10 years ago, and I just didn't know what to make of it because you don't, until you do. Mm-hmm. So I finally found a good doctor who wanted to listen to what was going on, and but this was after. This has been maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I wasn't feeling well, and I was at work, and I told my manager at work, I'm like, hey man, I think I need to. I'm gonna call my doctor. If he can get me in, I'm gonna go. I just don't feel good. And he's like, okay, no problem. I was working in Marietta. My doctor was in Beverly. So he's like, yeah, that's not a problem. If you're not feeling well, go to the doctor, see what's going on. And so I was working at Pioneer Chevrolet, which on the Pike in Marietta. And so I went down the Pike, and I got on Interstate 77, and I almost got to exit 6, and I thought I was having a heart attack. Palpitations, everything went numb, and I managed to get off exit 6 and get to the gas station there, the pit stop, I think it's called. And I asked them to call 911 because I thought I was actually dying. And so one of the cashiers, she was very nice. I had never got her name, don't know. But so there's one table in that place that's not in the restaurant. I sat down at it. I'm kind of freaking out, and she comes over and is talking to me. And the squad gets there. And of course, I'm just, not having a good time, and I don't know what's going on, and I'm worried. Because I'd had a little bit of high blood pressure, not bad, but I was like, oh, my family has a history of heart disease. This isn't good. And so they put me in the squad, and they give me oxygen, and they try to get me in. This is my favorite part. The one paramedic, she was new, and she's like, they're gonna want an IV when you get there. I'm like, okay, go ahead and do it. She was having a really hard time with it. I'm like, can you maybe let's not do that. I'm already having a bad enough time. Nothing on her. So we get to the hospital, and they give me like an EKG and all that good stuff, like you do when you think someone might be having cardiac issues. And the doctor walks in, and he hands me an Ativan, and he goes, take that and see how you feel. And I took it, and I still felt bad for a little bit, but when it kicked in, I felt okay. And he came back in, and he goes, you just had a really bad panic attack, and that's a thing that can happen. It does feel like a heart attack. You weren't wrong to come here, but you need to go see a doctor and get it dealt with. And I went to my family doctor at the time, and he was not particularly attentive to what was going on. So I switched doctors to a guy that my family knew who had been a primary care physician for a lot of my family for a lot of years. And I explained to him what was going on, and he got me medication that helped. And, I won't say what it is because it doesn't matter. But all I'm going to tell you is if you're having these problems, whether it be panic or depression or whatever it is, like, talk about it. It's okay to talk about it. I think we get this stigma. Oh, we're men, right? We're men, right?
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah. And no, but so it's not okay. Like we're supposed to just choke everything down and deal with it. And that's not okay. Like that doesn't help us. And if we're not good, then the people around us are going to suffer for it. So yeah, I have been on this thing where I try to be as transparent as I can about all of it. Because if we don't talk about it, we don't get better. And if we don't get better, bad things happen. So for me, I'm glad you gave me the opportunity to talk about this, because for me, it's one of those things where it's like, if you think you're too much of a man to talk about your problems, you're just running from them. That's all it is. And you could fix them if you wanted to, and let's fix them instead of run from them. That's it. That's all. At the end of the day, let's fix it instead of run from it.
It doesn't matter how creative or talented you are.
No.
Bad things happen to great people all the time. Chemical imbalances happen to great people all the time. Look at all the celebrities we've lost to suicide, overdose, whatever it may be. There's nothing wrong with talking about it, especially in a forum like this where we can kind of shed some light that even you who is obviously loved by everybody. I've never heard a bad word about you by anybody.
Well, I'm sure it's been said, but I haven't heard it, I guess. Yeah.
No, you
Maybe once or twice.
No. As somebody who has his pulse on the the community.
Fingers on the pulse. Yeah.
I have the fingers on the pulse of the community. In the last decade and a half, I have not heard one person say that they don't absolutely love you.
Hey, you just try to be.
It doesn't matter how much you're loved.
No.
If you can still have moments where you don't love yourself or the way that you feel.
Yeah. I mean, I think even outside of internal things, you got to think about the external too. We live in a world and a society where there's some, and I don't blame social media, but I don't blame anything. But there's so many things that are stressful that don't need to be. There are so many people that want to make you feel stress for whatever reason, and that contributes to all of it. It's okay. It's all right to feel stress, and if the stress gets to be too much, and you start feeling that bad, just go get whatever it takes. Some people therapy works. Some people medication works. Some people learning how to breathe I breathe through my stuff a lot of the time. You can learn ways to cope, and those are good. They're really good.
Some people need all of that.
Yeah,
combination.
No. That's really where I am most days, Yeah. And do I go to a therapist? No, but I have a lot of really good friends who are more than happy to listen and give advice, and they're people I trust, so I don't feel out of place, and that's cool. It's very cool.
A lot of my issues are resulting in what I do is the fight or flight thing, and even if I'm not, they call it fight or flight, and even if you message me and it's not a fight, it's just a question. If I am feeling anxiety or overwhelmed, my internal instinct is to not open any messages, sometimes for minutes, days, sometimes weeks, and sometimes ever. It's not a personal slight against anybody, but there are a lot of times, as a public figure now, I get 10 messages a day for business and 10 to 20 messages a day from friends or people wanting something or having a question, and there has to come a time where you disconnect.
Yes.
And if you're part of that disconnection, and please never take it personal, especially from me, because if you're on my list of friends or customers, it's definitely not personal. It is definitely a coping mechanism for my own anxiety and stress.
I'm right there with you. If you're listening to this and you've sent me a message and I never responded, send me one more, because I have this bad habit where if somebody will send me a message, and in my head I think I responded to it because I was just like, oh, I saw it and I processed it, but then I just didn't do the action,
My issue is people message me and I purposely don't open it because I'm not in a place or a position to respond
as well.
But then I get so many messages that it goes away from the main screen, and then out of sight, out of mind. And then 2 days goes by, and then I would feel guilty and awkward responding to it at that point.
The worst part for me is I do a bunch of this solo acoustic stuff. I do a lot of it. Yeah. And people will message me wanting to book me, and I will I'll get to that in a few. I'm in the middle of something, or I'm just not really in the place. And then I just forget to message them back, and then I feel like a complete and total moron. Now I look bad because I didn't even get back to you about it. But
I love... The thing I love about you the most is your solo acoustic stuff. As much fun as I have watching you drum or being part of a band, hearing you sing with just you and a guitar, especially your Irish stuff.
I love that.
What is up with that? Obviously you're Irish.
Yeah, I mean, 21% or something.
Where did your love of the shanties come in?
I can tell you exactly where it came from. It's a cut and dry answer. So I have a cousin, Tim, and another cousin, Jason. They both lived in Nashville, Tennessee for several years. Let's say in 2000. From 2005 to maybe 2008 or 9 or 10, somewhere right in there. I don't remember exactly. And in those times, there was an Irish pub right downtown in Nashville, off Broadway, but I think on 2nd Street, called Mulligan's.
As most of them are.
And I went there twice by myself, and it was actually really cool. Like very, very well done. Anyway, there was this, and he's still around. A guy called Larry Kernagis. I think he's from Chicago originally, but he had moved down there. And so my cousin Tim had gifted me this CD, Larry Kernagis and Friends Live at Mulligan's. And he said, you need to listen to this. I think you'll like it. And it was all, Dubliners song, Irish traditional music, but as done by like, it was Dubliners versions that he had kind of put his own spin on or different things. And something in it just got me. I don't know. Ancestral call or whatever it is, and so I got really, really, really into it. And I literally listened to that CD until it didn't work anymore. What's funny is I actually talked to the guy, Larry Kernagis, about 2 months ago. And I need to get back with him because he's got more copies of it. I'm going to buy one. But so I just kind of got into that, and I enjoyed those songs. I thought they were fun because they're all stories for the most part. And that's one of the reasons I love good country music is its stories. Mm-hmm. And I've always told people that I think that country music and bluegrass especially are more related to Irish folk music than anyone wants to talk about or thinks about, especially the Appalachian stuff, because all those Scots-Irish kind of ended up here to some degree because it looked like home. I guess I've been there, and it does look a little bit like home if you're in the right spot. So, and I always liked bluegrass anyway too, and it kind of had that, but it was a little more playful somehow. It was a little more. The instrumentation was neat too. They have different instruments. They kind of do different things. But so that's really, but yeah, Larry Kernagis. He's in a band called Def Leprechaun, which makes me laugh. But so if
it's almost like all those people that got tricked into buying tickets to see the Red Hot Chili Pipers.
Oh yeah. There you go.
I almost bought. I was so excited that they were coming to very close to us. I was like, "Why are they in Chillicothe? I'm going to buy tickets to the Chili Peppers."
Wait a minute.
Yeah. Okay.
But no, so I just and I mean I only get to do that once a year, which is honestly kind of a bummer. What's funny, and people don't know this. So Jake Dunn and I and a couple more of our friends had put together for a minute a full band to do that.
Jake O'Dunn.
Yes. Well, Dunn's an Irish name anyway, so that works out. Oh yeah, old Dunn, old Jake Dunn. But so we had put together a band. We had drums and bass, and I was getting ready to turn one of my electric guitars into an Irish bouzouki. Like it was a whole thing, and it just kind of. I think that was right pre-COVID too, and it all just kind of went wrong. But that might be something that still happens. So if you like Irish music, stay tuned. If there was an Irish pub in this part of the world, I wouldn't have any money.
I would be remiss if before we end the podcast, if I didn't bring up that when I used to open for you or go and see Cadillac Lester, you guys would come out and do I Would Walk 5,000 miles. And you used to love, I don't know if you loved it, but you used to do it. And it's my favorite song to jump to. It's like, cause it's like da da da, da. So you can just jump up and down, and I always ask for it. And you always cuss at me and say, no, I'm never playing. I hate that song. What is it about that song? Cause it is a 90s classic. Why do you hate it so much?
So I think I'm just enough of a curmudgeon, and you're aware of this. It's been said many times, the songs people love are the ones I hate most. I don't mean that, but it was just one of those, we did it as a lark. I didn't think anyone would care about it. I thought it was just stupid. And it was like, it's something dumb to do. And then it got to the point where it was like, we would go play a show and like 4 times, we'd play it. And like 4 more times, people would be yelling. I'm like, I don't want to play that again. Like, just, could you stop? And it never ended. And I'm like, if I had ever known how that was going to go, I wouldn't have done it in the first place, Like, if it was my song and you wanted me to play it 4 times, yes, I'll play it. I'll play it 12 times. I don't care. But, like, it's a weird kind of novelty one-hit wonder, which there's nothing wrong with. I have no problem with that. But I don't really want to do it 4 times a night, and I'm not gonna. But sometimes we do it like 2. I think maybe one time we did it 3 times in a night. I'm I'm like,
I know at that show that I went to, we screamed so loud we at least got it twice that night.
Yeah, and so I think maybe
You died a little bit inside.
It just soured me on it. You know, it's nothing personal. I'm sure they're Scottish. They're nice guys, I'm sure, or not.
All right. So before we end this, do you have anything else you want to talk about, bring up, anything you want to plug?
You know, the only things I want to plug are like all the good stuff that's going on around here. I mean, we have so much good music, and I just wish everybody would listen to all of it. Horseburner just put out 2 new singles. They're fantastic. I will say Jake Dunn and the Blackbirds are working on some new stuff. I don't know I don't know when or where it's gonna happen, but it will happen eventually. Sock Dillinger, great band. They're fantastic. We played with him a bunch.
How do you pronounce that one?
I don't know that I pronounce
Sock Dillinger.
Sock. I don't know. I called him what I called him.
So he's my mailman. I go to the post office every day, and I just talked to him today about jazz. And he told me once what it was called and what it meant, but I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't either, but there's just so much good music. Oyo, great band. They're fantastic. There's all these
Hominid, a brand new Andy Hall's new band.
I just talked to Andy a couple days ago. I hadn't seen him in a bit, but yeah, anything Andy does, I'm excited about. You know, like so.
It's always going to be unique.
The only things I care about at this point are like we have so much good music right here. Like you don't have to go to Columbus. You don't have to go to Pittsburgh. You don't have to go to Charleston or Huntington or Dayton or Cleveland. Come watch music in Marietta and Parkersburg. There's so much good stuff. All I want people to do is like, come find your new favorite band because you just didn't know we were here. That's all. Yeah. You know.
And on that, Jesse's going to pick up the guitar and we're going to end the show with one more song.
This is a song that really my friend Luke Green from Hayfield and Crow wrote, but I helped make it pretty and I polished it. So it's called Water on Stone.
And the pitter patter of the monsters upstairs are saying, "Daddy, it's time to come upstairs and tuck us in."
We call that foot applause.
Yes, that is mommy's cue to get a break. So we're going to call this show At a Close. And I got to say, me, along with everybody else I've ever met, I love you.
Love you, buddy. I'm
I
glad
truly mean
I
it.
was here, man. This is great.
Jesse opened up my First City Records when we had our open house party, aka there was nothing in the store other than Jesse, Oyo, and people graciously bringing money to help me get started by buying wood to build shelving. And without wonderful people, including Mr. Jesse Forrest, I wouldn't be where I am. So I love you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. This is great, man. It's good catching up.
It's great catching up.
Yeah,
and
always.
I'm going to be working on trying to set up a podcast called a singer-songwriter, like kind of a round. I have up to 4 mics. I would love to get you, Jake, maybe Todd, anybody that I can get that's been in the scene locally for so long. And I'm just going to sit back, shut up, and let you guys, and I'm going to film it. We're going to film it. And it's just, I just want you guys to kind of discuss how the scene has changed from the 90s to the early 2000s to where it is today, post smoke ban. And because I know that's when I retired. I made most of my money and met most of my girls before the smoke ban, and then you kind of took the scene by storm all these years. So we're gonna call it a wrap. Thank you so much to my friend Jesse Forrest for coming in.
Thank you.
Talk to you next time. Everybody have a great time, and we will see you on the next episode of the First City Podcast, coming to you live from Marietta, Ohio. Y'all take care now. Bye-bye then. And there you have it, folks. As the crow flies, that is the end of episode 11. I want to thank you all for joining us on episode 11. We didn't get into my personal vinyl collection like I had planned to this week. My interview with Jesse ran long enough for y'all for 1 week, so maybe next week we're going to get started on my 100 records in my collection that I plan to be buried with, the things that I will never, ever sell. Until then, y'all take care of yourselves, stay safe, stay kind, love y'all, see you at First City Records, take care now, and bye-bye then.